Deep in the Bavarian countryside, nestled amidst vast, silent fields that stretched to meet an unforgiving winter sky, lay the Hinterkaifeck farm. It was 1922, and the world was still reeling from the Great War, but here, time moved differently. Here, only the wind held sway, whistling forgotten songs through frosted trees and across a pristine blanket of snow that swallowed all sound. This was the isolated domain of the Gruber family. Andreas, the patriarch, his wife, Kitzilia, their widowed daughter, Victoria Gabriel, and Victoria's two young children, Kitzilia and Josef. Their lives were simple, harsh, dictated by the rhythm of the land. But beneath the facade of rural tranquility, a chilling unease had taken root, whispering of a terror far more ancient and sinister than any war. This isolation, this profound quiet, would become the perfect stage for an unspeakable horror. Weeks before the brutal events that would forever scar the German consciousness, the farm's previous maid had left abruptly. Not for better pay, not for a new life, but out of sheer, unadulterated terror. She spoke of the house being haunted, of strange footsteps in the attic, of voices whispering in the dead of night when no one else should have been awake. She felt an unseen presence watching her, a cold, malevolent gaze that penetrated the very walls of the farmhouse. Despite Andreas Gruber's attempts to dismiss her fears and even offer her more money, her resolve was absolute. She packed her few belongings and vanished into the snow-dusted landscape, a desperate flight from an invisible, impending doom. Her departure left a vacuum, filled only by a growing sense of dread. The unease deepened. One crisp morning, Andreas Gruber, a man not easily rattled, made a disturbing discovery. Fresh snow had fallen overnight, pristine and untouched. Yet, leading from the dense, dark woods that bordered his property directly to the back door of his farmhouse were a clear set of footprints. Human footprints. He followed them, his breath misting in the frigid air, his farmer's intuition screaming at him. He tracked them right to his door, then meticulously, painstakingly searched for their return path. But there were none. No footsteps leading away. It was as if a ghost had materialized from the forest, walked to his home, and simply vanished inside, leaving no trace of an exit. The implication was chilling. Someone had been there. Someone was perhaps still there, unseen, unheard, an insidious trespasser among them. The subtle signs of an invisible intrusion continued to mount. The family's keys, vital for securing their isolated dwelling, had mysteriously vanished. Andreas searched everywhere, turning the small farmhouse upside down, but they were gone. Not misplaced, but simply gone. It was a minor incident in isolation, perhaps, but coupled with the maid's desperate flight and the phantom footprints, it painted a disturbing picture. It suggested not just a trespass, but a deeper, more calculated penetration of their privacy. Someone or something had gained access and now held the very means of entry to their sanctuary. The locks, once a symbol of security, now felt like a cruel joke, mocking their false sense of safety. Then came the sounds. Not the usual creaks and groans of an old farmhouse settling into the night, but distinct, unsettling noises from above, from the attic. Footsteps, faint, measured, stealthy. Andreas, a man of action, had taken his rifle and investigated, ascending the rickety stairs, his heart pounding a slow, heavy rhythm against his ribs. He searched. He peered into every shadowed corner, his breath held tight in his chest. But he found nothing, only dust and cobwebs and the lingering, suffocating silence of an empty space. Yet, the sounds persisted on subsequent nights, a phantom presence above their sleeping heads. It was the chilling, undeniable sensation of being watched, of an unseen entity lurking just beyond the veil of sight, patiently biding its time. Despite the mounting dread, life had to go on. A farm demanded work, and a household needed tending. So, a new maid was hired, Maria Baumgartner. She arrived at Hinterkaifeck on the afternoon of Friday, March 31st, 1922. She was a young woman, perhaps a little naive, but eager for work, unaware of the sinister undercurrents that plagued this remote farm. She had no way of knowing that her arrival coincided with the very day the darkness would finally descend. She stepped off the path into the farmyard, a small bundle of belongings in her hand, her future, and indeed her very last hours, sealed by the silent, unseen watcher who had made Hinterkaifeck its hunting ground. She was, tragically, the final piece in a macabre puzzle. That Friday evening, the family gathered for their last supper. Andreas, Cecilia Sr., Victoria, and the two small children, Josef and Cecilia Jr., along with the newly arrived Maria Baumgartner. Perhaps they spoke of the day's chores, the spring planting, the ordinary rhythms of their lives. The daylight faded, casting long, inky shadows across the fields, pulling the farmhouse into a deep, cold embrace. The sounds of the farm animals quieted. The family retired to their beds, lulled by the deceptive comfort of routine. But in the hushed stillness of that night, an unseen predator stirred. It had waited, it had watched, it had listened. And now, under the cloak of deepest darkness, it began its deadly work. The silence that had once brought peace would soon become a shroud. The exact sequence remains a chilling conjecture, a testament to the killer's methodical brutality. It is believed that Andreas Gruber was lured out first, perhaps by a noise in the barn, a rustle in the straw, an animal in distress. He was struck down, his skull shattered by a mattock. Then, one by one, others followed, drawn by the same ruse or perhaps simply investigating Andreas's prolonged absence. Cecilia Gruber, then Victoria Gabriel, and finally the innocent new maid, Maria Baumgartner. Each was led to the barn, into the suffocating darkness, and met the same savage end. 6 bodies, piled in the hay, brutally murdered, their lives extinguished in a swift, merciless flurry of blows. The air, once filled with the scent of hay and livestock, now hung heavy with the metallic tang of blood. While the adults and Maria lay dead in the barn, 2 souls remained in the house. Victoria's children, the innocent Cecilia, just 7 years old, and little Josef, barely 2. They slept in their beds, oblivious to the carnage that had unfolded just yards away. The killer, having finished the grim work in the barn, then entered the farmhouse. Perhaps they awoke, perhaps they did not, but the same cold, unyielding mattock that had claimed the lives of their elders now descended upon them. Young Josef in his cradle, a tender life snuffed out before it had truly begun. Cecilia, a child, her dreams violently shattered. The vulnerability of their sleep, the defenselessness of their age, made their murders all the more heinous, a testament to a killer utterly devoid of mercy. The silence of the house became absolute. This is perhaps the most horrifying, the most psychologically scarring aspect of the Hinterkaifeck murders. For the next 3 days, the killer, whoever they were, remained in the house. 6 bodies lay sprawled and broken in the barn, in their beds. Yet life at the farm continued. Someone fed the livestock, someone milked the cows. Food was taken from the pantry and eaten. A fire was lit in the stove. Smoke curled from the chimney. It was a macabre masquerade, a chilling charade of normalcy played out in a house of the dead. The killer, alone with their victims, existing amongst them, sleeping in their beds, perhaps even hearing the quiet ticking of the clock while the bodies grew cold. The sheer, audacious presence, the cold calculation, turns the stomach, suggesting a mind utterly unhinged, reveling in its dominion over life and death. For 3 days, the strange quiet of Hinterkaifeck went largely unnoticed. Its isolation was its shield, but eventually the silence became too loud. Neighbors, accustomed to the familiar rhythms of the farm, began to notice small discrepancies. The smoke from the chimney, though present, seemed intermittent. The family wasn't seen in the village. On April 4th, a coffee merchant arrived but found no one. Later that day, Albert Hoffner, a mechanic who had come to repair an engine, waited for over an hour, calling out but received no answer. He saw the barn door ajar, the house eerily silent. A deep, unsettling feeling began to settle over the community. Something was profoundly wrong at Hinterkaifeck. The quiet had broken, and with it, the dreadful truth was about to emerge. Concerned by Hoffner's report, 3 neighbors decided to investigate further. They pushed open the farmhouse door, their hearts pounding in unison, stepping into the suffocating silence. What they found would haunt them for the rest of their days. First, the barn. In the hay, partially covered, lay the grotesque tableau, the bodies of Andreas, Catzilia, Victoria, and Maria Baumgartner, their heads brutally disfigured by the mattock. The stench was immediate, sickening. Then the house. The discovery of little Catzilia in her bed and Josef in his cradle, both murdered, sealed the horrific truth. The entire family, along with their new maid, had been wiped out. The isolated farm, once a sanctuary, had become a tomb, a scene of unspeakable savagery, forever etched into the landscape of human cruelty. The police investigation that followed was swift, yet ultimately futile. The scene offered few concrete clues. There was no sign of forced entry, reinforcing the suspicion that the killer was either known to the family or had used the vanished keys. Money was found in the house, suggesting robbery was not the primary motive, though a small sum and some valuables were indeed missing. The killer's chilling residency in the house after the murders presented an almost insurmountable psychological barrier to understanding. Who would tend animals, eat meals, and then simply vanish without a trace? Over 100 suspects were questioned in the following decades, each leading to dead ends, false confessions, and inconclusive theories. The evidence, though abundant in its horror, was maddeningly silent on the identity of the perpetrator. The theories spiraled, each more disturbing than the last. Was it a drifter, a transient worker with a grudge? A former handyman, Lawrence Schlittenbauer, who had an affair with Victoria and was the father of Josef? Was it an act of family retribution, perhaps an incestuous motive, as some investigators hinted at a dark secret within the Gruber household? Or was it something entirely different, a random act of malevolence, who simply walked in from the woods, committed unspeakable acts, and then melted back into the shadows? No motive ever truly fit, no suspect ever definitively proven guilty. The mattock, found hidden in the attic after the bodies were discovered, remained the only silent witness to the atrocities, offering no name, no motive, no face to the monstrous hand that wielded it. The Hinterkaifeck farm was eventually demolished in 1923, deemed too cursed, too drenched in horror to ever stand again. The land lay fallow for years, a barren scar on the Bavarian landscape, refusing to yield life where so much had been so brutally taken. Even today, over a century later, the case remains officially unsolved, an enduring testament to a crime that defied all logic, all reason, all explanation. The psychological horror of those days when a killer lived among the dead continues to haunt the imagination. It's a stark reminder that sometimes the deepest, most chilling darkness doesn't come from ghosts or specters, but from the unseen, unpunished evil that walks among us, leaving behind only questions and an eternal chill. Hinterkaifeck serves as a chilling whisper, a perpetual reminder of the terror that lurks just beyond the edge of the known, always watching, always waiting.